Welcome back to the Old Photo Vault channel. Haunted cigarette smoke. Greenwood Cemetery, Brooklyn. Autumn 1921. She sat on the grass as though it were a parlor rug, smoothing her dress, crossing one bare ankle over the other, lifting the cigarette with the ease of a habit learned long before grief. The cemetery was quiet in an ordinary way. Leaning stones, softened names, the smell of damp earth and cut grass. She exhaled slowly. The smoke drifted, then lingered beside her, holding a human shape a moment too long. She did not turn her head. Clara Bell had come here every Sunday since her husband died of influenza, smoking the brand he favored, staying until the light thinned. In the photograph, her face is calm, almost content. What unsettles me is the smoke. How it waits near her shoulder, patient and familiar, as if it has followed her here before and knows she will not leave alone. The cabinet that remembered her. Vienna, Austria. Winter, 1908. The room looks arranged for company. The heavy cabinet polished, the lamp lowered carefully. A chair drawn close, as if someone had only just risen. Light spills in from the left edge of the photograph, washing the space with a pale blur, like morning arriving too early. They said the cabinet belonged to Elise Hartman, who spent her evenings dusting it, whispering to it, insisting it held the warmth of the house together after her daughter fell ill and never stood up again. In the image, a faint figure lingers beside the chair, thin as breath, neither seated nor standing, her outline unsure of its purpose. Nothing else is disturbed. No drawer hangs open. No object is misplaced. What troubles me is how the cabinet's carved doors seem to lean toward her, as though remembering the weight of her small hands, and refusing, even now, to close without her. The third friend on the bed. Ohio, United States. Summer, 1976. The room looks like any shared bedroom from that summer. A narrow bed, bright curtains, a stuffed toy pushed back against the wall. Empty cans warming in their hands. The two girls are laughing, leaning into each other, caught mid-joke, certain the night will last forever. Nothing feels staged. One holds a drink loosely. The other tilts her head back, eyes half closed in comfort. Only after do you notice the third shape on the mattress beside them, pale and unfinished, sitting too close to be a trick of light. It seems to be smiling in the same direction, as if included. Years later, the surviving sister said they used to make room for Margaret, their cousin, who died in that room before high school, insisting she hated being left out. In the photograph, there's just enough space for three. What chills me is how naturally the girls lean away, careful not to disturb her. The one who never left the dance. Mississippi, United States. 1983. The room was meant for music and sweat, for laughter pressed close to wood-paneled walls. The band played like they always did on Saturday nights, horns lifting the air, the singer leaning forward as if calling each dancer by name. People moved without thinking, shoulders loose, feet finding the floor by memory alone. In the photograph, everything feels alive. Hands mid-clap, faces turned toward the sound, a night caught exactly where it should be. Only at the far edge does something hesitate. A pale figure stands where the light thins, unfinished, watching the dance instead of joining it. Old regulars later spoke of Elijah Moore, a drummer who collapsed during a set years before, carried out while the music kept going. They said he loved this room too much to leave it quiet. What unsettles me is how the dancers nearest the edge lean inward, as if they know the space beside them is already taken. The child who rose before they found him. Lake Martin, Alabama. Spring 1912. The family stands knee-deep in the water, as if it were part of a careful ritual. Skirts and trousers darkening as the lake pulls at them. The minister raises his hand, steady and practiced, his voice meant to travel across the ripples. This was the third morning they had come. searching where the boy slipped beneath the surface while playing too close to the reeds. No one speaks in the photograph, but their bodies lean forward, intent, patient, believing the water will eventually give him back. Near the center, something breaks the reflection. A small shape rising where no one is looking, too upright to be a ripple, too still to be foam. It appears unfinished, waiting. Later, the family said the lake was calm when they finally found him, as though it had already done its part. What unsettles me is that in the image, the child seems to surface first, quietly watching them search, as if he is learning how long it takes to be missed. The sister who didn't step away. Surrey, England, summer 1904. The photograph feels properly arranged. Two young women in white dresses resting their hands on the stone post, faces composed, bodies angled as they were taught. Behind them, the garden stretches neatly, paths trimmed, trees behaving as trees should. A uniformed man pauses mid-step with his violin, as if the afternoon has politely asked him to wait. Everything suggests leisure, privilege, a moment meant to last. Only at the right edge does the image thin. There, a faint figure rises from the grass, narrower than the others, her outline uncertain, as though she stood too long between one pose and the next. Family letters later mention a third sister, Eleanor, who died the previous winter and had loved this garden more than the house. They said the remaining girls refused to be photographed without her nearby. What unsettles me is how naturally the two lean toward the stone, leaving space beside them, as if someone else is still meant to rest her hand there. The dance. She finished alone. Provence, France. Late summer, 1932. The photograph shows a woman mid-step in a quiet field, arms lifted, skirt drawn wide, as if the air itself were her partner. She's smiling, not for the camera, but for the motion, for the simple pleasure of being balanced and seen. Behind her, the trees stand still, witnesses without opinion. Nothing about the day appears remarkable. Locals said Marie Lefebvre practiced here every afternoon, rehearsing for a small village festival that never quite arrived. She believed movement could hold a person in place, keep sorrow from settling. Only later do you notice how her shadow gathers beneath the hem of her skirt, darker and deeper than it should be, shaped almost like another body kneeling at her feet. Marie died that winter, before the music was ever played. In the photograph, her arms are still raised, her pose unfinished. What lingers is the feeling that the dance did not end. Only the audience did. The face in his jacket. Des Moines, Iowa. Winter 1959. The photograph shows a young couple pressed together in a small bedroom, laughing into each other's shoulders the way people do when the camera catches them too late. The blinds are half closed, the bed unmade, the moment unimportant enough to feel real. Her dress is pale, his suit slightly rumpled, as if they were practicing being married before the day arrived. They look safe. It takes time to notice the mark on his jacket, just below her hand, where the fabric darkens into something like a child's face, faint and unfinished, staring outward. Family stories later mention a son born before this marriage, lost to illness and rarely spoken of. His photographs kept folded away. In the image, no one reacts. They hold each other tightly, unaware. What unsettles me is not the face itself, but how close it is to her arm, as if someone smaller is being held too, included without being seen. The Woman in the Leaves, Yazoo County, Mississippi, circa 1910. The couple stands the way people did when photographs took time. Shoulders squared, hands still, faces arranged for seriousness. He rests one hand on the rifle, the other relaxed at his belt. She stands beside him, hat brim level, expression calm, as if already practiced in waiting. The field behind them is ordinary. Fence posts, Pale sky, trees closing in softly at the edges. It looks like a life paused between chores. Only later does the left side of the image begin to trouble the eye. In the dark leaves, a woman's face presses forward, pale and watchful, as if the foliage has learned how to remember her. Family records mention a first wife who died young, buried near the tree line before this land was fully cleared. In the photograph, neither of them turns. They hold their pose, steady and composed. What unsettles me is how the leaves seem to lean closer, as though someone is still trying to step back into place. The gift that wasn't wrapped. Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Christmas Eve, 1967. The living room is carefully prepared. Silver tinsel catching the lamplight, records stacked neatly. The television waiting to be turned on. The woman kneels by the tree, dress creased at the knees, opening boxes with the quiet focus of someone who knows what each one should contain. Outside the window, the night holds steady. Nothing feels hurried. She reaches for a small parcel pushed slightly under the table, one she does not remember buying. Its paper uncreased, its ribbon already loosened. In the photograph, there is a blur beside her shoulder, faint as breath on glass, shaped like a child leaning close. Family stories say her youngest died the winter before, after insisting Santa would still come if the lights were left on. In the image, the woman has turned, halfway smiling, as if someone has just spoken her name. What unsettles me is how the gift waits open, patient, certain it will be taken. The man who stood twice, Palermo, Italy. Spring 1901. The wedding party gathers on the steps as instructed. Coats buttoned, hats straight, hands folded into patience. The bride's veil catches the light. The groom's smile holds just long enough for the shutter. Everyone appears properly accounted for. It is the sort of photograph meant to prove a beginning. Only later does the right side begin to trouble the eye. One of the men there seems to face two directions at once. His features doubled, as if he turned his head, but forgot to take the rest of himself along. His second face lingers, watching the group from a fraction behind. Family notes mention a brother, Paolo, who drowned the year before while working the docks. His body never recovered, his place quietly absorbed by the living. In the photograph, no one reacts. They stand close, leaving no gaps. What unsettles me is how the man on the right appears complete only when seen twice, as if one life was never enough to let him leave the frame. The visitor behind the curtain. Paris, France, autumn 1906. The woman sits exactly as she was asked. Hands folded, boots tucked neatly beneath her skirt. The weight of the afternoon resting politely on her shoulders. The parlor is arranged for calm. Carved panels, patterned walls, a chair meant to hold a body without complaint. Light slips in through the window, thin and pale, tracing the edge of the curtain. Nothing appears unsettled. She looks toward the camera with the practiced stillness of someone accustomed to being observed. Only behind her does the light thicken. A shape gathers at the window, blurred but deliberate, as if someone has paused mid-step outside, unsure whether to knock. Letters from the house mention her husband's death the previous year, how she refused to move his belongings, insisting he still preferred the view from that window. In the photograph, she does not turn. What chills me is how the figure behind the curtain leans inward, patient and familiar, as though the room is still waiting for him to come home. The girl who bowed without a head. Near Brno, Moravia. Autumn 1924. The caravan stands at the edge of the fairground, its paint chipped, its wheels sunk slightly into the dirt, as if it has paused longer than planned. Three women pose as they often did after a show, skirts heavy with dust, smiles practiced and tired. One leans forward, mid-curtsy, her body bent in an exaggerated bow meant to amuse the crowd. The accordion rests against a knee, the tent canvas slack in the still air. Everything feels ordinary for the end of a traveling day. Only after does the eye hesitate. The woman in front appears to have bowed too deeply. Where her head should be, there is only pale blur and light, as if it never returned when she straightened. Old circus ledgers mention a performer named Zita, who collapsed during a routine, her neck injured, her role quietly reassigned. In the photograph, the others smile on. What unsettles me is how the bow is held, patient and permanent, as though she is still waiting for applause that never came. The woman who smiled. Too long, Seville, Spain. Circa 1915. The women are arranged carefully, dresses layered and heavy, hands resting where they were told. Shawls fall in practiced folds, jewelry catching the light just enough to show prosperity and pride. It feels like a family portrait taken to mark a season, perhaps after a wedding, perhaps before departure. Most of the faces are calm, reserved, shaped by patience. Only the woman at the far left unsettles the balance. Her eyes are open too wide, her smile stretched beyond warmth, as if she has been holding it longer than the others. The expression does not soften with time, it sharpens. Local accounts mention a cousin, Isabella, who suffered spells after her husband vanished at sea, laughing suddenly, smiling when no one spoke. They dressed her carefully, placed her at the edge, hoping the camera would not notice. In the photograph, everyone looks forward. What chills me is how her smile seems aware of us, as if she recognized the moment she would finally be seen. The room that learned her shape. Ghent, Belgium, winter 1999. The room is arranged for quiet industry. Polished wood, carved stone, flowers placed where they will not distract. A woman sits at the table with her needlework, shoulders relaxed, hands steady, as if the afternoon has agreed not to hurry her. Light enters from the right, warming the rug, softening the corners of the furniture. Everything feels properly lived in. Only the space beside the staircase refuses to settle. There, the air thickens into a pale figure. Seated where no chair stands, its outline faint but familiar, shaped like someone who once paused there every day before climbing the steps. Letters from the house mention a sister who died young, who preferred to watch rather than speak, who said the room felt safest when it was full. In the photograph, the woman never looks up. What lingers is the sense that the house has learned her companion's shape and still keeps it carefully in place. The altar that was still listening. Northern Italy. Autumn 1944. The church had been opened to daylight in the roughest way. Stones split and scattered. The altar broken like furniture no longer needed. Statues still stood where they always had, arms raised, faces calm, as if nothing had interrupted their duties. Flowers lay crushed beneath debris, and a cloth hung loose, stubbornly clean in places. In the center of the ruin, something pale appears, standing where the steps once led upward. It is shaped like a person paused mid-prayer, neither fleeing nor fallen. Parish records say a sacristan named Luca refused to leave during the shelling, insisting the altar should never be unattended. They never found him. In the photograph, the figure does not look damaged. It looks patient. What unsettles me is how the rubble seems arranged around it, as though the destruction stopped just long enough to let someone finish listening before the silence closed in again. The reflection that applied first. Lyon, France, spring 1911. The woman sits at her dressing table as though the hour has been agreed upon. Corset loosened, hair softly arranged, perfume held lightly between her fingers. The room is tasteful and restrained, the kind meant to encourage patience. Framed miniatures, pale curtains, a mirror that has learned her face by heart. She lifts the powder puff toward her neck, pausing as if listening to a thought she has had many times before. In the mirror, her reflection seems a fraction ahead of her. already touching skin she has not reached. Near the curtain, a pale shape gathers, thin and attentive, like breath caught in fabric. Letters found later mention her sister Camille, who died the previous year, whose vanity table was moved but never cleared. In the photograph, the woman's expression is calm. What unsettles me is how the mirror looks busy, as though someone else has already begun getting ready. The light that learned her song. Greenwood, Mississippi, circa 1918. She stands in the clearing with her guitar held low and steady, the way she always did before letting the first note out. The trees behind her are thin and patient, their branches bare enough to listen. It is an ordinary afternoon, the kind that asks nothing more than a tune to pass the time. Her dress is plain, her expression calm, as if the camera has interrupted her between verses. Only the light behaves strangely. A pale streak drifts across the frame, curling near the guitar's body, brightening the air as though sound itself has taken shape. Neighbors later said Lila Mae played here after her husband died, certain the woods remembered him better than the house did. They claimed her music never echoed, only stayed close. In the photograph, she does not look surprised. What unsettles me is how the light seems to lean toward her hands, as if something unseen is still waiting for the song to finish. As you've seen, these photographs never shout. They whisper. They wait. Sometimes what lingers in an old image isn't a trick of light, but a memory that refused to fade. If something in these faces, shadows, or empty spaces unsettled you, you're not alone. Did you notice a detail I didn't mention? Do you believe these are accidents of time or traces of something still watching? Leave your thoughts in the comments. I read every one. If these stories stayed with you, please like the video, subscribe, and share it with someone who looks twice at old photographs. Because some moments were never meant to end, and some pictures are still listening.